Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I've already previously filmed a video of the new Sony A8F or AF8 OLED and also the X900F LED LCD television, but a lot of the information in there was inaccurate, so I had to do a refilming before I actually fly back to the UK. So let's talk about the OLED first. And Sony has actually introduced a new line of OLED television. It is known as the Bravia AF8 in the UK, and it will sit one rung down below the Bravia A1 or A1E OLED television, which will continue to be sold as their flagship OLED for 2018. Now, what is different with regards to the AF8 from the A1E is mostly in terms of the design. So if you remember, the Sony A1 has a tilt-back design. It uses acoustic surface sound technology, but because it is on a kickstand, so the panel has to slant backwards slightly by around 5 degrees. Now, this was okay with some people, but certain parties are not very happy having a television that tilts backwards. So what Sony did was to launch this new range of AF8, which has a panel that sits straight upright, and it has a really small stand that has a very small footprint that doesn't really take up much space, so you can easily put it on a narrow AV rack. Also, to keep the minimalistic design, what Sony did with the stand on the AF8 is to lower it so much such that the panel is almost touching the surface on which the TV is placed. There are other improvements in the design element as well. Previously with the A1, if you wanted to wall mount it, because of the kickstand, the screen actually juts out from the wall quite a lot, but with the AF8, the screen can get much closer to the wall for wall mounting purposes, and I've been informed that the footprint takes up less space as well. Now, feature-wise, the Sony AF8 OLED is identical to the step-up A1E, and it will have an X1 Extreme processor which delivers some of the best in-TV upscaling we've ever tested, and it will have HDR support for the open standard HDR10 format, the broadcast HLG or hybrid log gamma format, and also with a firmware update, the Dolby Vision format. And these TVs will be using the Android Smart TV platform. Next, let's move on to another key product for Sony this year, which is the XF90, or in the USA is known as the X900F. Now, the flagship ZD9 or Z9D will continue to be sold throughout 2018. And when I asked Sony why they didn't actually offer a replacement, their answer was pretty simple. Why is there a need to replace something that was already the best on the market for a certain purpose? And to a certain extent, I really agree. The Sony ZD9 delivers the best HDR performance among consumer televisions to date, but maybe this year they will face stiffer competition from, let's say, Samsung. And let's get back to the Sony XF90 or X900F. It will be the successor to last year's immensely popular XC90, but the XF90 has received a couple of key upgrades as well. Let's talk in terms of the backlight. The backlight is going to be a full array local dimming direct lit LED LCD backlight, and the number of local dimming zones, again, there's no way I can find out from Sony, so I can only count it when I receive a review sample, hopefully pretty soon. But one of the improvements for the XF90 is definitely in terms of the video processing chipset, because it features the X1 Extreme chipset, which is the same as the one found on the Sony Z9D or ZD9, Bravia A1, and also the new AF8, bringing the processing in line with all these top-end televisions. Also, another improvement that Sony is keen to stress on is the new X Motion Clarity system. And this is going to be very interesting for those of you who are interested in backlight scanning or backlight blinking. Now, with traditional backlight blinking, occasionally you can get dimness in terms of the light output. The technique clears our retinal persistence, and so we will see less of the sample and whole motion blur. But what Sony has done with the X motion clarity on the Sony XF90 is harnessing the power of the X1 Extreme chipset to try and locally boost the brightness of the portion of the image where the backlight blinking is required. This is actually fairly innovative, and I wonder why no one thought of it before. So imagine if you have a car here that is moving in real time, and if you apply backlight blinking, and let's say this car is rated at around 100 nits, if you apply backlight blinking directly to it, let's say a 50% interval, then it may look like 50 nits and therefore look not as bright. But what Sony is going to do is to analyze the image, and if the X motion clarity is engaged, it will actually use the local dimming algorithm to increase the brightness even further to, let's say, 200 nits. And then when you apply backlight blinking on top, it will just drop to 100 nits, as if there was no darkening at all. Certainly it sounded very novel, and I received a private demo. It looked very good, but for the highest motion resolution, some motion interpolation is still required. But at least Sony's motion interpolation algorithm doesn't introduce as much interpolation artifacts as other brands. So the Sony AF8 and the Sony XF90 are the key televisions for the Japanese brand for the upcoming year, and by pursuing two technologies, they are certainly showing their intent to try and make the best of whatever technology is possible at that time for the best purpose. So let's say if you want the best HDR impact, you're going to go for the Sony ZD9, but if you want a silky smooth picture with the inkiest black possible, then you might go for the A1E or the AF8. And I think the company is certainly pushing the matter on many fronts, and I would be interested to find out how the X motion clarity performs. And one thing I need to tell you is I actually posed this question to Sony: why didn't you actually implement the X motion clarity on the OLEDs so that you can actually get even brighter picture despite a black frame insertion on the OLED televisions? And the answer was very simple, really. The OLED, because it is per pixel illumination, it doesn't lend itself to this sort of technology. It is only because the Sony XF90 is capable of local dimming in clusters, and they can select a zone and locally boost it, and therefore you get this compensatory increase in light output at the moment when the backlight blinking happens. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.